Yes. Oh, this is fine.
If you're back over there, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
If you sit down, I can.
Yeah, this is good enough.
Okay.
So, anyway, this is also has also a peak limiter.
Oh, I see.
So we cannot overdrive it. Well, the idea, incident. Well, let's get back to to after the World War. So everything was kaput in 1945. So now I established myself as a radio repairman. So we lived in a little house out in the country. So I went on in the attic, and first I had just a table, and a pair of pliers, and a screwdriver. A year later, I had a complete workshop, and with everything, instruments, everything that I had built myself.
Mm-hmm.
Things were not done with money. It was done on the barter system, which means you do the sawmill owner a favor,
right,
and he does you a favor. So the farmer got a small radio from me, so I got some trees from him, and somebody got the gasoline to drive the trees to this lumber mill, and then it was sliced in pieces, and then it went to another place, all for favors. And finally, I had in the attic a nice workshop built out of wood inside and under the roof. Very nice, very nice. So why I really brought up that story, that anecdote with the radio repair, was because we were talking about these things that can happen in the field with service problems.
Yes.
So one GI comes into me and says, this radio doesn't work. Okay, let me look at it. And of course, I was also a little smart aleck. If somebody really did work, I didn't tell him. I just showed him the bad tube later on, And so he came back, yes. I said, well, it works now. And I turned it on. Oh, yes, wonderful. And now, just so you know, you have to pull the switch out and then turn it to the right side. Oh, fine. That was the whole trick. He didn't know that. Of course, he had swiped that radio, so therefore he was not familiar with it. So much for service problems. Now, this was in the period of 1945 to 1948. Of course, after a while, I got sick and tired of making radio repairs only, and I already had made some electronic music instruments before. That was prior to the war, which was in 1938 mainly.
You had done that?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I had built one organ, which was, I think I told you this, which was a predecessor of the Oberheim four-voice.
With the geographic determination of the pitch assignment.
Yeah, yes. With 4 oscillators and 4 envelope shapers and 4 everything.
Was this done on your own or for a company?
That was done on my own. I had somebody who sponsored it because he had a band and he wanted to use it in his band.
Was this a wind band? An orchestra?
A small orchestra.
Uh-huh. Yes. And he wanted an organ for the orchestra?
Yeah, he wanted an organ with special effects. He wanted to have something special. He was quite...
Who was that?
Christian Barnke. I mean, no name in history. But he has a little niche in the history by having done this, as far as my judgment is concerned.
Was that your first instrument?
That was my first electronic organ, yes.
Can you tell me something more about it?
Well, I have written or mentioned it in papers, and I have also publications about it. I have no late pictures of it. I had to do everything from scratch in that. I started out with the assignment circuit, which was a intricate switching circuit, and which had about 10 or so switches per key, which, of course, at that time was unheard of until I found out about the Hammond organ. So we call that circuit, it has a name, and we call it staircase circuit.
Not meaning a staircase wave shape, but
No.
a staircase for triggering.
Yeah, it is a kind of, yes, it's a staircase type of configuration of the circuit. I would have to explain it to you in detail on paper.
Okay.
We call it Treppenschaltung. I don't even know if the name would be applicable in this country. So I thought this was my major invention on the thing, but I found out that, and then I thought I'd just resort to anything that is known. Other people have tried it, so it must work. So I used the Trautonium oscillator, which was already
a relaxation oscillator.
Yeah, yes, it was. Yes, a kind of a relaxation oscillator. So that worked with a Thyatron. So I duplicated the Trautonium oscillator, and then I found out why Trautwein didn't have keyboards, but it's a glide band, because he could make midstream corrections on the pitch.
It would drift in pitch.
Would drift, and of course, and this all of a sudden I became aware of. So I knew now. Oh, I worked like the dickens day and night to get it as stable as possible, but it was still not stable enough. Okay, I had the book of Hellberger and Lertis on electronic music. Lertis sounded quite believable on his generator for the Hertzian. Mm-hmm. So I copied that. And that worked pretty nicely, with the exception that it needed 3 different power supplies. So I modified the circuit that I could work with 1 power supply, and now it became stable.
This was an LC oscillator.
LC, yes.
Right.
However, an LC, not hardly, but relaxation oscillator, because it was overdriven. It had too much feedback. So anyway, I found now that I could make it stable by making it not voltage tuned, as it was done by Lertis and Hellberger, but by making it resistor tuned. And I needed something that was resistor tuned and not like LC oscillators capacitor tuned, because if I would use capacitive tuning, I would run into trouble with the capacitances of the switching circuit.
Yes.
So that would set me off. So that oscillator, which I then derived from this public domain, was very nice, and I did build an instrument which was demonstrated in public. It still left something to be desired, because...
What was the name of the instrument?
We called it Warbo Formant Orgel. Warnke, the sponsor, and Bode, Warbo Formant, because we had formants.
W-A-R-B-O?
W-A-R-B-O, yes. And formant, because we had formants for tone shaping.
I have heard of it, but I didn't know that's where it came from.
Yes. Now, I discovered a number of very interesting things. First of all, the outputs of these 4 channels I had assigned to 2 sets of resonance filters or tone shaping circuits, which could be assigned at will to any of the 4 voices. Mm-hmm. So I could, for instance, assign voice number 1 and 3 to one tone shaping circuit, and 2 and 4 to another tone shaping circuit, with proper voicing, which I called exclusive or excluding formants. I could get very nice friction-free and pleasing sounds. I do have a paper. I ran out of reprints, so I would have to duplicate that with Xerox. Mm-hmm. But I can give you copies of that.
I'd like that.
So anyway, again, an interesting little footnote of history. This instrument was demonstrated in public in November 1937. The press was there. The sponsor was very nervous, because first I blew a fuse on the amplifier. So the next thing I knew, he was disappeared. He just evaporated. Hours later, he showed up. He was drunk by that time, because he thought he wouldn't survive that. The press was there. I explained everything. The demonstration had started at 8 o'clock in the evening. there was a gorgeous girl in the first row watching me, and she was just waiting for me to get through.
Were you single?
I was single, yeah.
Good for you.
But since the demonstration lasted to 1:30 in the morning, she had disappeared.
How long was that? The demonstration?
All the explanations and the questions and answers, and the press people went out and came again, and they filed briefs in the news in the editorial room or city room or whatever. So
who played the instrument?
I played it.
Oh,
I improvised. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, so I lost one girlfriend and I gained fame. Next day, of course, it was all over the papers on the front pages. Now my sponsor was very nervously looking for a report on the blown fuse, but nothing doing. Everything was positive. Now, this went through the press of all Germany and all Europe, as a matter of fact. Now, he was shooting from the hip. He didn't know all the ramifications that would be required to make now a producible, mass producible object out of it. So this is where he failed. But we went to Berlin. This was in Hamburg, this demonstration. We went to Berlin.
And this instrument, is it gone forever?
Oh, that's gone forever. I mean, that's
what became of it?
It was in the basement of a house which was destroyed by bombs. Okay.
The only one.
Oh, yes. Only. But
not even so much as a picture.
Yes, I do have pictures. Oh. I do have pictures, but they are reproductions in print. I mean, in publications.
Out of magazines.
Yes. But I do have, as a matter of fact, I published it in the communications of the Heinrich Hertz Institute.
Oh, yes.
Now, we went to Berlin, the sponsor and he lost me because now I got hired by the Institute of Schwingungsforschung or Heinrich Hertz Institute. I got an assistantship. One of the other assistants there was Sennheiser.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So Wirling, under whom we worked,
Oscar Wirling,
yes. He was very much interested, and Sennheiser was very instrumental to build a second instrument of this kind, which had 3 voices and which was very nice and stable, on which I gave a presentation.
When was that?
That was in the spring of 1938. Then...
Did that go under the same name?
We didn't really care too much about the name.
Was it more an experimental project?
It was more an experimental project. It still had its instabilities. Yeah, it jumps up by itself. So
okay.
I think we have half an hour or so. Okay. So because of the instabilities, which are always the problem with a multi-voice instrument of this kind, we decided, Wirling and I decided to make a one-note instrument, melody instrument, which came out under the name Melodium.
Mm-hmm.
This instrument I then had a place for in the Music College of Berlin, Musikhochschule. And there was one professor who died in the meantime. He was overweight. He very much promoted the Melodium.
Who was that?
Schottlander, Dr. Schottlander. Tremendous man. 400 pounds, German pounds.
Yeah.
So that's about 450 pounds. Fantastic personality. And he promoted it, and he had the connection with all the top name composers. So now the Melodium was used in a number of motion pictures, the music,
mm-hmm.
and music was written for it.
This was a keyboard instrument.
The music was written for it, for Berlin Symphony Orchestra and the Melodium.
Wow.
And I tell you, when I heard the first recordings, I really had goosebumps. It was just tremendous.
Do you have any of those recordings?
No.
All...
I don't know if they could still be in archives. And I know that some things are in archives in Geiselgasteig, which is the movie center in south of Munich. And if I really would be after it, I possibly could dig them out. Sometimes one is not sufficiently history-minded because
that's
one
true.
Always thinks that, it's
unimportant because I did
it. Possibly. Yeah.
Or you're so directly involved in the actual doing of the thing that you don't have time or really the energy to think of it in those terms, that this could be important. This is a piece of the flow of electronic music instrument history.
Yeah. So I didn't realize at that time what value this really had for later times.
Was the melodeon ever...
No, was not melodeon. Was not produced. However, then of course I became very much occupied with already my work in the war.
What kind of an instrument was the melodeon? Was it a preset instrument with tabs like a Solovox or a clavier?
No. It had levers. It was built very primitively, but was very good sounding. It had 4 octaves. It had a rail. The keys were seesaw type keys. Mm-hmm. So they had a fulcrum in the middle, and the back was lifting up. And any key that went up was lifting a rail that was common to all keys, and that was connected to a pressure-sensitive loudness control. So you had a very
pressure sensitivity.
Yes, pressure sensitivity, and you had a very nice expression, which was very much liked by the composers.
What kind of technology was it? I mean,
it was tube technology, which of course lasted a long time after that. Mm-hmm. So the melodeon was then that for the rest of the war years. And now getting back to my attic years where I did my radio repairs.
One other question.
Sure.
What made this orchestra leader come to you? In other words, had you built an instrument before?
No, the composer.
No, I mean for the warbow.
Warbow-Verband organ. Well, the Warbow-Verband organ, nobody wrote for it, and it was
but
never used.
The man who commissioned it, what gave him the idea that you should do it? I mean, you had experience in musical?
Yes, I had made a name for myself in some previous work related to electronic music. Not very much, but so he wanted to have a little bit proof.
Well, I'm going to have to hear about that now. If it was before 1938, you were doing something.
This was before, and that was really. I did work on the Steinway with electronic pickups, and in the line of Miesner and Wierling works.
Yes. With Nernst also?
I did not work with Nernst. I just worked directly with Steinway. I had been asked to reproduce the Steinway tone without using those microphones, which were terribly distorting at that time. And I came close to a very, very good Steinway tone.
Was it the typical of the pianos of that, electric pianos of that time with a cutaway soundboard?
No, it was an unaltered Steinway. The objective was different from Nernst and from Miesner and from Wierling.
You were trying to get it to where it would go over the radio.
Having a good Steinway tone that would go over the radio better than what we did with microphones.
There was an instrument in this country, in the U.S., I think it was called the radio piano or the radio Anna, that sought to solve the same problem. Did you have any
I had no connection because...
Adsit was the man's name, A-D-S-I-T.
Yeah, you see...
Roman Adsit.
You see, in the 1,000 years that lasted from 33 to 45, we were isolated from the outside. So we did not know what happened.
Right.
So we had to reinvent the wheel if it had to be done, and do everything on our own.
So what was the outcome of your interaction with Steinway?
It kind of fizzled away. I did this as a hobby, and I had to work to do a living. It was in the Depression years. It was still the Depression, and I just had to subside somehow, and that was not the way to subside. At least not in a city like Hamburg. I mean, I don't want to go into this. That's a chapter.
I'm sure.
I mean, it's not progress-oriented, the way Berlin is, or the way we're thinking at the West Coast, or the way we're thinking at some other centers here in USA. But I concluded the work, which I did on the Steinway, and I did present a paper on it. And this is how this Warnke got acquainted with me when I spoke about it and made the presentation and had concluded the work in such a way that it looked good. Mm-hmm. And it was good. It was good. And as a matter of fact, I wrote on the same subject later in an article. That was during the war years in another publication. It's a really complex story. I mean, it's
I'm sure.
So many interweaving things. Now, getting back
to the attic,
and to the aftermath of the melodeon, I felt that if I made now a melodeon, which was a one-voice instrument, I should be able to at least make a two-voice instrument. And my first concept was to use a 5-octave keyboard and have the split keyboard, the lower 2 octaves assigned to one oscillator and the upper 3 octaves assigned to another oscillator. Now, I did tune these 2 and the 3 octaves respectively in such a way that I could make voice crossings. Now, this melochord had all the features of the melodeon, but everything twice. Mm-hmm. It had a right-hand set of controls and it had a left-hand set of controls.
What parameters could you vary?
On the first one, I only had touch sensitivity and voicing and
timbral.
Timbral.
Was this the
and vibrato? Mm-hmm. On the next model, I had also attack, decay, and soft attack, sharp attack, long, short decay times, and so forth. Very, very expressive timbres. Mm-hmm. This, with the melochord, that became quite known, as you know, of course. Then
at the Cologne studio.
Cologne ordered one. NWDR Hamburg ordered one. It was sold to several places. It was not sold in many pieces by a long shot. It was still a handmade.
Do you think there are any melochords in the world?
Oh, yeah, possibly. But I would say I built less than 10. So that's...
Do you know what happened at Cologne? What was your interaction with the people at Cologne? How did the order come about?
This came through the initiative of Enkel and Maya Epler. And
who were actually the originators of the studio.
Yeah. Maya Epler had some very good ideas, and he was very far-sighted. He also had one melochord. He had one of the melochords that had the split keyboard. Later then they were built with 2 keyboards, one lower and one upper. And I also later changed the tone generating system from this relaxation oscillator, which I told you about, to an LC oscillator because it was just more stable. Mm-hmm. I found that the melochord building in the long run was a starvation type of enterprise. So I had to look for something better, and I knew, of course, had sensed the taste of the public.
Before we get off of the melochord, though, what happened at the Cologne studio? Did people go ahead and use it? Did they compose for it? Or?
Oh, and it was mainly Stockhausen who used it. I am not too much aware of who else used it, and it's possibly also has been used by a number of other composers.
Do you know specifically what works Stockhausen used it for?
No. I did not follow up.
There was something unique about that instrument, though. I remember reading something about traveling formants.
Yes. It had, however, with different technology and more crude means, something that we now have, of course, in the watch control filter. It had the same performance features of the voltage control feature.
Like a bandpass that moves as you
Yes.
play up and down the keyboard.
Right, yes.
What was your purpose in doing that?
Well, I envisioned that this would be an attractive sound, and I had a very good vision for the sound and what the traveling formant, which I still could call the sound of the Moog tunable filter. I had a good vision of what it would do, and did exactly what it did, what I had envisioned. It's just a powerful tool. This was now, of course, I could, on this particular mellow chord, I mean, if you want to go into details,
yes,
I could play a melody on one keyboard and play melodies of the formant on the other keyboard, and which you would now have to do with two Moog keyboards if you wanted to. You play a melody and then you play the formant filter on the other. I have a recording here on which I played the melody. Since I don't have two Moog keyboards, I played the melody on the clavioline keyboard and the formants on the Moog keyboard.
Was that similar to the sound that the mellow chord
That was similar to the sound that the mellow chord made, and I just wanted to duplicate it many years later, of course.
Are there any extant records of the mellow chord? Any archival tapes?
There should be. I have some tapes which I would have to pull out. I wouldn't be able to do it today.
I understand.
Yeah. But
next week.
That's soon.
Well, sometime.
Yeah. But no, I have duplicated a number of things from memory with later technology instruments, which are qualified to duplicate what I did at that time. I do have recordings of the mellow chord. I do have improvisations. I do have things sound on sound.
As early as when? Sound on sound.
This...
very good. This is side B.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I can identify it later. So, yes, as I said, I do have documentation of things. It's a little bit sparingly, but I mean, and some tapes have noises on them and things like that. Which brings me to another thing. It has been done. There are noise reduction systems, one-way noise reduction systems, like Berwyn, for instance. Also, I don't want to sidetrack now, the noise reduction systems which fill in where there is a spike.
Right, where there's dropout on the tape or something like that. Yeah.
So, which is very attractive.
Computer enhancement, there's a number of things that can be done to resurrect those tapes.
Right. So,
but it's most important that we at least get a copy and make sure it's very secure.
Yeah. I have thought for the longest time of doctoring up historic tapes or historic recordings, so they could
As a project, have you thought of doing this?
Yes.
Have you thought about getting it funded and doing it on your own?
I'm funding everything myself. That's it. By the way,
Yeah.
When I think of it, that Bob Moog, and he has to correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what I understand. He had a project to build the vocoder for UB.
Yes.
Which I understand sold for $10,000.
I'm not sure of the price. It was quite high.
Yes, and it cost him more than that in engineering time and outlay. So anyway, he had funding. I built my first vocoder, which is not here anymore. That's in Berlin now. I built my first vocoder out of my own funds, which I think I told you. And that is, I started with the hardware on October 20th last year. I had the first model together on December 1st, and it sounded terribly distorted. And I thought, well, now there goes this project. And then I worked on it very hard, and then I found what I did wrong. And 10 days later, I had the most wonderful vocoder.
Yes, you did.
Well, I mean, And this was a predecessor of what you have heard, because I did recordings with it for weeks and weeks until I found out that I didn't even wire up the lowest channels.
Mm-hmm.
I had worked it only with the upper channels.
When you said you built your first vocoder, when was that? In Berlin?
No. The first vocoder that I built, that is in Berlin now.
I see. It's been sold. I see.
Did I tell you the story about that?
I think you told me that someone from
Tangerine
came.
Peter Baumann came, and he came on a weekend, and I couldn't lead him to Polyfusion. So I only had the prototype here, and he said, I take it. So he wrote me a check. And so that's the end of the prototype. The only thing being that I have another front panel of the same kind, but I wouldn't want to duplicate the prototype. He can now proudly say that
he owns it.
He owns it. Yes.
What did you do? You worked for Wurlitzer, but after the Mellochord.
After the Mellochord, I built the Polychord.
I don't know about that.
Yes. That didn't make many waves. I just built a single one with relaxation oscillators. And it was just an instrument with which I had too much trouble. So
was it polyphonic?
Polyphonic, yes.
Completely
polyphonic.
An oscillator for each key?
Yes. Synchronized oscillators. So as far as that is concerned, the tuning was fine. It was never. This is the one.
I see.
And what I had.
When was that?
That was around 1950. But then I decided.
Were you independent at this point?
I was independent. I was independent until 1952. I was independent from 45 when I left the war industry, which was kaput, until 52. I did not continue on the polychord. I had an idea to make an organ which sounds like the Hammond organ, plays like the Hammond organ, has everything like the Hammond organ, except that it doesn't have any tone wheels. So I used synchronized Hartley oscillators. And that organ concept I brought over to the United States in 1954. That organ was built by Este organ company.
Yes, they had reed organs originally.
Yeah, they had, and then they built this organ for a while. We built, and then they went bankrupt. But they built something like.
Was this again one oscillator circuit for each?
Yeah, well, it had Hartley oscillators in the highest octave.
And divide down?
Divide down, again with tuned oscillators, on which I had a nice sync range, so it was. I have an organ downstairs which has oscillators of this kind. Mm-hmm. It's very deteriorated now. I would have to clean the contacts. It has some special features which I can show you.
Is that the organ at the top there, or is that the ball?
No. That is a prototype organ which I built in Germany, and a sister of that one I took over to this country.
Then that became the Este.
That became the working prototype for the Este, except that they did other furniture around.
Right.
Yes.
But it was a 12 oscillator instrument with divide down.
Yeah. 73 tones notes, and I used the synthesis principle of the Hammond organ, with the exception that I went only up to 4,000 cycles rather than Hammond going up to 6,000 cycles.
So you use sine wave addition.
So I repeated upper octaves, and it worked.
Did you, as Lawrence Hammond did, share keyboard? In other words, share partials with keyboard output?
Yes, yeah.
So that your partials were like his; they were not Pythagorean; they were equal tempered.
Yeah, right, mm-hmm. Exactly.
Otherwise, I guess it would be prohibitively expensive.
No, I borrowed the fundamental, the second harmonic, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, eighth out of the tempered scale, exactly like Hammond did. And
there was a great deal of controversy in those days.
Yeah, I know. Now, what the beauty about this organ was that it had a slight harmonic content. There were not pure sine waves. And this way, now you got the beats of the tempered harmonics with a natural harmonics, and you got a kind of a quarter tone effect. So this organ sounded very rich.
Did this have a special name at Este? Was it just the Este organ?
It was the Este organ.
And what years was that?
That is, the prototype came in 54. It was shown at the NAMM show in July 54, I think it was, Chicago. And then it was built through 1958.
So there are a number of those around?
Oh, yeah, there are hundreds of them around. Mm-hmm. We improved the models, and eventually we had a very good model. And the only thing that made it fail was a poor purchasing agent who paid about 3 times as much for the transformers as he should have paid. And things like that, you know, what you call put under the heading of mismanagement. But I stayed with the Este organ company after they merged with one company in California, Magna. I brought out another model of the Este organ because I thought, well, they cannot. I didn't know that the purchasing agent was at fault. I thought I made a design that was too expensive. I put in a design that was cheaper. So that was synchronized glow tubes, and there is a circuit, you know, which you can build with.
This is neon tubes?
Neon tubes. And there's a circuit that you can build with neon tubes that is very stable, that you can synchronize over 1 octave. I tried it out and worked like a charm.
Was this still an Este organ then?
It was still an Este organ.
They had failed and merged with Magna, but they kept the name.
Yeah, yes. And so then the management there at the new setup had the philosophy, which was about 180 degrees reversed from mine. I wanted to have top quality and top of the line. I wanted to have the Cadillac of the organ line. And they wanted to have a Sears Roebuck or cheap. I shouldn't say Sears Roebuck, but a cheap,
I know what you mean.
Real cheapy, you know. With a result that they went cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And now I think it's just a little reed organ outfit, Este. And I lost track of them, but they must be around still.
When did you leave?
I left at the end of 59. Mm-hmm. Then at the end of 59, I decided, now I got no more shares of stock.
One thing on the Este instruments that you built, were there models? Was one an A, B, or were there?
Yeah, well, it was the AS1 was the best model.
The early one.
The AS1.
AS1.
Well, it was not the earliest one, but that was the best model. That was.
Did that use the neon glow tubes or the?
No. That was still the Hartley oscillators. Mm-hmm. I didn't think too much about the neon tube organ. Didn't have the richness and the.
What was this model number? You remember?
I don't remember the model number. It didn't. I lost interest. At that point, I had the feeling that the organ industry got into a rut. Mm-hmm. So I thought I have to break out of that rut and do something completely different. So I parted from Este, and I had enough money at that time. So I went back to Vermont. I was in California, and I started development on my own. Had the vision of a modular synthesizer, which I thought would revolutionize the whole music industry, which eventually happened. And I wrote letters to all the kinds of famous recording studios and networks and so forth. I almost had no response, and I couldn't understand it. And
this was in early 1960 then?
Yeah, that was in 1960. Oh yes, I started at the end of 59, and by the end of February 1960, I had a modular synthesizer with a tape loop repeater, and that could do all kinds of crazy things. And I still have sample tapes of it. And I presented a paper at the AES convention in the fall of 1960 on this modular synthesizer. And of course, some people had the vision. They saw that this is something. And among others, I got acquainted with Vladimir Ussachevsky. He also, at some time later, ordered equipment from me. Mm-hmm. Of course, that was a business of a volume that I couldn't build a new house from the revenue. So I had a family, so I had to go to work again. It just happened that even before I wanted it, I had a job offer from Wurlitzer. So this is where Wurlitzer comes in. So I held them off and said, well, I'm not ready yet, but I'm going to look at your facilities if you want me to. So they invited me and my wife to come down to Corinth, Mississippi. They also invited me to look at their facilities and to help. They really gave me the red carpet treatment. Mm-hmm. So when I saw that my efforts to get into a big boom business with my synthesizer just didn't show any results, I threw in my towel, if I may say so, and said, well, okay, I'm going to join you. So I joined Wurlitzer in the March of 60. And then, due to an accident in the upper echelon of Wurlitzer, I don't know if you know about that.
No.
Yeah, the VP, who was a son of the late Mr. Lolfing, perished in a plane crash around New Year or so of 60, 61. I don't know exactly what it was. And now the whole policy changed at Wurlitzer, and the research and development facility in Corinth was dissolved, and everything was centralized back to North Tonawanda, New York. So,
excuse me, while you were in Corinth,
yes,
Benjamin Franklin Meissner had worked on tuned reeds, and Wurlitzer had produced a piano. Do you know anything about the subsequent development of that?
Yeah, I know about it, because I was assigned the task to take over the further development of the electronic piano. So I developed...
it had been there about 5 years, I guess, then, when they came out in about 1955.
Yeah, well, this was, of course, before my time. Mm-hmm. I was there, mind you, in 1960. So, but I did some development on the electronic organ, and I did some other things. And then I was assigned the responsibility for the electronic piano. And at the time when I was assigned the electronic piano, the business management of Wurlitzer, mainly this gentleman who perished, had a much farther reaching vision than the people who were left over after this. So they thought of an a pure electronic piano like this one here. But what it fizzled down to remain was just an improvement of the lead piano.
Did you ever meet Mr. Meissner?
No, I saw him, but I never met him in person.
There was some kind of an unfortunate situation between the Wurlitzer people and he, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, I sensed it. They just wanted to become independent, and they used me to put in things that made them independent of Meissner.
I see. In other words, to circumvent his patents and things like that.
Yes, yeah. So, of course, I had to make a living. So
sure.
I did what I
did the best you could.
Was told to do, and then while I was with Wurlitzer, I gave them 4 new patents on the new electronic piano development. So now they had a whole array of new patents.
Would it be fair to say that the genesis of that piano, though, still is due to Meissner?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So in other words, the in no sense of the word should the Wurlitzer Company take that away from him.
I think no, they shouldn't take away credit. He has done quite a bit of groundwork. I did certain things which, for one thing, they had problems with reed breakage, so I developed a new reed that had much less breakage, and that also had a...
Was the design in 1960 the same as it basically was in 55? It had an FM situation.
No,
it was not that way.
No, we had DC bias. Yeah, we put in DC bias, and of course we put in new technology. Mm-hmm. So we had transistor technology.
What about the reed pickup? In the old days, it was half lapped, so that a symmetrical movement of the reed would give an asymmetrical wave shape with a lot of harmonics rather than a sine wave.
Yeah, this was retained.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And the reeds were weighted at the end, I think, which also was under Meissner.
His patent.
Yeah.
Was there any relationship between a man named Hosky and the Wurlitzer Company?
I am not aware of that. This kind of trying to, under their dictatorship, to make them independent of Meissner was, of course, not a huge technological challenge to me. There was a mutual understanding that when I left Wurlitzer in the middle of 1963. Now, I thought...
by that time you had moved to North Tonawanda.
By that time I already had lived in North Tonawanda. As a matter of fact, I already lived in this house, which I built in 62, which was finished in March of 62, after I had leased one house at another place in the neighborhood for 1 year. I came to North Tonawanda in 61. So now I had left Wurlitzer, and I had now several orders for frequency shifters, at that time already frequency shifters and ring modulators. So now I thought, now I set up shop, and now I forget about the industry. And I was really thoroughly sick and tired of the electronic music industry. So I did some things, but the orders didn't come in. There are always, in a small business, as you know,
cash flow is a problem.
Cash flow problems, slow seasons, peak seasons, and so forth. And it was the nation was, and the business was very much affected by the assassination of Kennedy, which happened in November of 63. And so all of a sudden the business stopped. As far as I'm concerned, I couldn't get through to people to get them interested in so remote things as certain new aspects of electronic music. Mm-hmm. I also had problems. My first wife became quite ill, and so which ate up cash. So I had to go to work for a living again. But this time, no electronic music. So I joined Bell Aerospace and stayed with them for 11 years. And I became a respected specialist in microcircuit design and development and technology. And to that extent that I was very much respected by NASA and prime contractors. So when I left Bell, and this is not a giveaway due to normal retirement, people asked me, what are you going to do now? Well, I said, I'm going to work now in my field. Microcircuit technology? No, I said, electronic music. Do you know anything about electronic music? So that's the way it went. So that's that was one phase. And of course, now, if I think of having had 3 starts, the third one worked. And that's the present one.
With the frequency shifters?
Frequency shifters, anti-feedback devices, ring modulators, vocoders, and doing some other things which I license others for doing. It all works.
I would like, if you would, to sort of go back further back into the past, now that we've gone up to here, if we have time, and ask you if you knew certain people or if you had any experience with them. For instance, you said that originally when you built this organ that you copied Trautwein's, or used the public domain design for his relaxation oscillator, the neon tube first and then the Thyrotron.
Yeah.
Did you ever meet him?
Oh, yes. Yeah, he lived in Berlin, and I lived in Berlin. I moved to Berlin. When we got on the telephone, the relays must have gotten hot, because we talked at least for an hour and a half in one call. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we had just so much to say to each other. No, I know him quite well. He was a very likable man. Were you in Berlin at the time?
No, he developed the Trautonium before you were in Berlin.
Yes, he developed it, and he got. Of course, he was a smart cookie too. I mean, he got Telefunken sucked into building 200 Trautoniums, which were standing around in all kinds of attics and so forth.
There were that many. There were 200.
200. This is just like 50 years in the 1630s were built.
Yes.
Although at the time when we started the 1630, if I may just make a jump, initially there were orders for 45, and then they just
took so long.
It took too long, and people lost interest.
Right.
With Trautonium, it was a different story.
Then, since Telefunken built a Trautonium, Trautwein built Trautoniums from about 1930 for a number of years.
Yes.
Telefunken's involvement was in the late 30s?
No, it must have been in the mid-30s, because I went to Telefunken this was early in 37, and asked if I could get some Thyrotrons, which were used in the Trautonium. So that was a standard thing, huge thing, about the size of a 60 or 100 watt bulb. Mm-hmm. Yes, I could get them. So, and as I told before on the other side of the tape, I put in quite some hours to make an oscillator with the Thyrotron remarkably stable, that it almost worked with a keyboard.
Mm-hmm. But it's easy to see why Trautwein had used the band manuals.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So that you could change pitch as you played by ear.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like, it's always using something as an excuse for deficiencies.
It becomes part of technique.
Yeah, of course. Right. Of course, Oscar Sala developed such a tremendous virtuosus a technique for playing the Trautonium that, now it was completely justified.
Yes. And he advanced that instrument, too, beyond the Telefunken.
Oh, yes, he did. Yeah. He really did remarkable work.
Did you ever hear him perform?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Do you recall one of those performances?
Yes.
Specifically?
Yes, yeah. It was a demonstration type of performance. I think it was in one of the studios of a Berlin broadcast company. It was at the beginning of the World War II.
In those days, was the impetus, was the direction of the electronic musical instruments, was there a lot of new music played, or was it mostly transcriptions of older music? In other words, did people use the Trautonium for experimental music, or was it more traditional?
That's a good question. this is hard for me to recall. I could only answer that in part as far as my instruments are concerned. I inspired composers like Theo McCabe. I don't know if that name means anything. He was quite a famous composer in Germany of popular music and made music for film scores of very, very. Yeah, as I was saying, Theo McCabe, he was a brilliant composer, and I inspired him by demonstrating the melodeon for him. And he did the music for Mary of Scotland, which was a movie, and on which he did a brilliant music score. So this is on the subject, was music written for these instruments? I only know about my own instruments. A number of music scores were written for theatrical pieces. The melodeon was used backstage in the orchestra pit in theaters with theater plays in Berlin. I mean, it's a kind of a situation as it would be in New York, where you can cart around one single instrument and use it in all kinds of plays or presentations, and saturate the market, so to speak. And what I did, I had a rental arrangement, like somebody would rent out a vocoder. I rented out the melodeon and collected a nice rental fee, like the equivalent of maybe more than $300 a day for the melodeon for when it was playing with the symphony orchestra. And sometimes it was standing there for 5 days in a row and generating rent of $1,500 was maybe used just for 10 minutes or so. Mm-hmm. But this is the typical situation. I mean, this is just by the way. You know?
Right.
These little things. So, so much about the melodeon. We are really going back and forth. And when we just rushed through the history or the stories that I have told you and some of the things that you have asked me, we have naturally skipped a number of things which you didn't know to ask about. Mm-hmm. So there are things that I can fill you in with, like, for instance, the claviolin. I remember when the claviolin appeared on the scene, that was just...
Constant Martin.
Yes. Of course, I met, not Martin, but I met the mastermind behind it, Gaston Burger. I had a contact with him later because I was instrumental in generating, as I told you already, the concert model of the claviolin. Mm-hmm. And I obtained a number of patents around the world for that. Now, it was quite interesting, the emotional aspects of this thing, because when the claviolin appeared on the scene, which was around 1948, I think, it became known in Germany.
This is the French version.
Yeah, the French version. I just had the Miller chord that didn't have the plucking sounds, and attack decay characteristics. And now the claviolin appeared on the scene, which didn't have these characteristics either, or a very poor plucking sound. So I got scared like hell, and I felt that I had to do something better. So this is how I was motivated to get the second generation of the Miller chord, which now had the real string tones and the real plucking tones and everything, way beyond the aspects of the claviolin, which had the two-tone concept and so forth.
Two-tone?
Oh, yeah, the Miller chord had the two-tone.
Oh, the claviolin also?
No.
Oh, I see.
Claviolin stayed where it was, and now I went beyond the aspect of the claviolin. However, the Miller chord was not mass-producible, whereas the claviolin was mass-producible. So that's where they beat me. And said, finally, I made the decision, well, if you cannot beat them, join them. So this is how I got to the collaboration with the Cleveland people, which happened or started to happen in 52, 53.
Mm-hmm. There was a British clavioline as well. Was that?
Yeah, that was
the Selmer.
No, Selmer. That was Berlin, and there was the mastermind behind that. As a promoter, and that was also covered by my patent. So my first royalty check, if one thinks in this country the Cleveland never did in anything in large quantities, my first royalty check was for 1,000 Clevelines in Britain.
Mm.
So I mean, it did go into quantities.
When you said Berlin, Arnold Berlin?
No. I have to look into old correspondence.
But your role then was to improve and enlarge the instrument from the original French version into the one that I think of as the English version. Or
well, it was my augmentation was produced in all countries. It was produced in the French version. It was produced in the German version. It was produced in the English version. It was produced in the American version. And I think there was also an Italian version.
Well, what did you do to the
I put in the octave coupler, which put in the sub octave. So, which they then called the concert model. So we have the octave and the sub octave in this instrument here, which is on the controls are on the right hand side. Some of the black, yes. keys. Now, mind you that this atmosphere in this particular area is extremely, has extremely many chemicals that are very detrimental to contacts, to key and stop switch contacts. So when I finally moved my organ that I'm going to show you downstairs to this area, it lost all its charm, or some contacts failed completely. So I have to clean and restore it, and I just haven't had time to do it. Mm-hmm. But
another small keyboard instrument that looks physically like the Solovox, the Clavioline, the Ondioline, came out.
Yes. With
George Genet, or Jenny.
Yes.
Do you recall that instrument?
Oh, yes. I as a matter of fact, I met him in New York. He was here, and he was sponsored by a studio off Broadway, and they wanted to promote it. And at one time, they wanted to. It's a remarkable instrument, and you sometimes hear the sound on commercials. Mm-hmm. So there are.
You shake the keyboard back.
Yes, you shake the keyboard. It was...
you get a vibrato that way.
Yeah. It was a remarkable instrument, but Wurlitzer, I was still with Wurlitzer when they tried to promote it and get Wurlitzer.
Did Wurlitzer have that?
No. I was still with Wurlitzer when they contacted me and wanted to get me as the door opening into Wurlitzer. But Wurlitzer, being the strange company that it is, it was not a Wurlitzer instrument. It was not designed by Wurlitzer's engineers, so it was not interesting.
Didn't you tell me that at one point the Herlorzian was at?
Yes.
At Wurlitzer.
Yes. Yeah, but that was way before my time. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, I think that was even prior to World War II, possibly.
I know we are skipping around, but did you ever meet Hellberger and Lertis?
No, I never met him. You see, it was a different time.
Uh-huh. That was the early 30s, 1928.
Yes, yeah. Really. So I really considered myself as a latecomer at that time, mm-hmm. because so much had been done before I did anything. I just happened to stay along.
What about your relationship with Robert Moog? How did that occur?
That is interesting. I was still with Wurlitzer when Bob wrote to me, and he had read my article on my first modular synthesizer, which I showed at the AS show.
This is an article from Electronics, December 1, 1961.
Yes, that was 3 years before he showed his first modules.
Mm-hmm.
And he was very impressed by what I had published and what he had heard about my work. And at one point he offered to, or asked if he could work as my assistant. And he showed me about his qualifications. But again, Wurlitzer being the company that it was, they didn't want to pay for anything. Oh, I tell you, I don't have a nice word for Wurlitzer. It's terrible.
I'll never let this tape get out into the archives. He must have been building theremins at that time.
He built theremins.
Mm-hmm. He must have been at Cornell.
Yes, he was at Cornell, yes. And he was really struggling along. Mm-hmm. But he finally built his first modules. After I had made this presentation at the AES in 1960, I was called and asked if I would function as a session chairman in 1962. That was still during my Wurlitzer years. Then again, I was called to chair the session of 64.
In which Bob introduced his modules.
Yes. At that time, Bob got in contact with me, and so I was able to take him as one of the papers that were presented at the fall session of 1964. So I introduced Bob as a person who was well known by his theremins. Mm-hmm. And Bob was very shy and almost fainted on the stage when he presented his first paper.
Literally?
No. I mean, he was
very shy
and very slow with words. But everybody, who had some judgment and some sensing, knew that this man was going to go places. And this feeling I also got from his presentation. Herb Deutsch was the one who played his first modules. And
at that convention?
No, it was taped.
Oh, I see.
So a tape was shown. Then, of course, I saw Bob at his stand, which was Jimmy rig with a few cardboard tables and his modules and his keyboard. And I was very impressed because it had all the qualities that reminded me of the early days of the metal chord. Mm-hmm. So history repeated itself as far as I was concerned.
The concept of voltage control didn't originate with Robert Moog, but
he really perfected it. And
as far as musical instruments,
yes, he perfected it to the extent that he adapted the voltage control to the musical scale to
exponential control.
The exponential control, and then he, of course, went further with the voltage control filter, and he really did what was needed to make the voltage control concept work in a modular synthesizer. This I also said, what you really did was to make the exponential interface work, because that was...
And also much wider range.
Oh, yes,
in the
yes,
modules.
yes.
Then there had been VCAs and organs and things like that, but they didn't work over such a...
No. I mean, he really exploited the concept to its full potential. So then, of course, Moog and I, he was very much impressed, and more so than the average worker in this field, by the name that I had made for myself. So for his money, I was a household word. So he liked to very much get products of mine into his program. So he was very happy when he was able to make an arrangement with me on Bode ring modulators, which enhanced his line, and later Bode frequency shifters, which were built by Moog. So we had some Bode frequency shifters of the passive kind, which needed
not voltage controlled.
No, not voltage controlled, and which just had a signal input and a carrier input, just like the ring modulator, to do the single sideband work that was known for frequency shifters. I do have a single sideband frequency shifter here, which is the passive kind. That's one here in the rack. But I don't have the active kind because the one that I call my own, I have lent out to somebody in California who's working with it. Justly so, because I have his frequency shifter here for repair, and I haven't had time yet. And both are very happy. He's happy that he has mine, and I'm happy that I'm left off the hook right now. So now, hopping back and forth from one product to another. I also, during my days prior to coming to this country, developed another instrument. I should interject one thing. My connection with the clavioline came up when I was approached by a company which promotes the clavioline in Düsseldorf, Germany. That's a huge and very aggressive music dealer in a music house, Jorgensen. They had a lot of initiative. They also put me together. I mean, made the connection between myself and Gaston Burger in Paris. So they got me together with the clavioline people, and they initiated really the work that I did on the clavioline, the concert model.
Did you make substantial changes in circuitry?
No. I just added a little module that could be retrofitted as a kit, and it was a very small thing, but did a nice job. Now, these people who were instrumental in getting me together with the clavioline people, they also had enough customer feedback that they knew that there was a demand for a polyphonic instrument. So at one point, I made a polyphonic instrument, which they insisted upon inventing the name, and it was very unfortunate for the American market because it sounds like Tutti Frutti. It was the Tutti Box. The name didn't go over, and if a name doesn't go over, the product doesn't go over.
It implied all voices, but
yeah, Tutti Box, but it did. So it was a dead-born child, not only because of that, but also it was misimproved after I left Germany. Misimproved, yes, which means in order to have high reliability on the contacts, I had 2 contacts for each key, which did the same thing. So if one was scratching, the other one was filling in, so you didn't have any scratching. And some smart aleck simplified the instrument by thinking, what nonsense is that to have 2 contacts for one key? So he left out one row of contacts, and now it sounded like scratch. So it was back to what it was not supposed to be. So in a market which had much more air contamination than the European market, namely the American market, it was not feasible. So we lost out on that one. I have a little amateur photo on that one here. That's the vehicle of the Tutti Box with the back open. So I had all the tone generators. It had 36 double tubes. So it had a total of 5 octaves.
That reminds me a little of the Consonata.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Oh, yes. Well, this instrument, I have it still in the basement.
The Tutti Box?
Yeah.
Is that the one you're going to show me?
No.
You have another one there.
Oh, yeah. That is in the junk room. I could pull it out.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
Yeah, well, I would have to do it next time.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. It's not functional operative now because I lent it to one of my sons and he dropped it on the floor and something broke. So, but what I can show you, and of what I don't have a picture is...
Was this an add-on instrument that you would hook underneath the piano also?
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Like a solo box that was polyphonic or a clavioline that was polyphonic.
Yeah, so, right. And
did you have anything to do with the Electronium Pi? There's an accordion, as I recall.
No. Then, of course, the imitators appeared on the scene in Germany after I left. That was after 1954. Most of the people who come and go in electronic music don't have a broad range background, and they fail on something. And they call them flies by nights, and they just come and go. And many people are not innovators.
But you've seen instruments fail for a number of reasons.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it takes a combination of all of those things happening right for the instrument to succeed.
Sure.
Sometimes musically it may be a valid and justified instrument, but other factors.
Right.
This is part of what I would like to say to this music industry.
Sure. Oh, yeah. I mean, this is something and would be the object of a very interesting conversation that we could have to really find out why and why not.
Different instruments fail.
Yes, right.
I'd like to have that conversation sometime.
Oh, yes.
I'd like to see that organ, though.
Sure. Well, we would have to shut it off.
Okay.
I mean, it's, I could, if it's sufficiently interesting, you can ask again your question.
The business about why instruments fail?
Or why instruments fail. No, I thought if we have left out anything in this
yes,
of
right.
instruments.
Yeah, I know we've jumped around.
Yeah. Well, I think we have pretty much covered everything as far as musical instruments are concerned. Of course, my other creations, I mean, the ones from recent years, which are mainly ring modulators and frequency shifters. Now the vocoder.
How did you get the idea for those products, though? I mean, how do you just all of a sudden decide that what people need is a frequency shifter?
Well, that's interesting. I was known, and I didn't originate the ring modulator, of course. I only discovered that ring modulators, which were built in the early years, used switching type of diodes and sounded horrible and distorted. And I did, by experimenting around with ring modulators, I found if I used germanium diodes and used very low voltages, that they were in the square law function region of the diodes, that I achieved very pleasing sounds with ring modulators. So this, I then discovered that this was a place for a new breed of ring modulators, not for communication techniques or not for control devices, but for electronic music applications. Mm-hmm. So I capitalized on this discovery and built a ring modulator into this modular device, which you see on this rack. That is the one that is the pioneer, if I may say so, for the modular
and when was that?
devices. That was 1960. That is the one on which I presented my paper in AES. As a matter of fact, on all of these devices that you see on this particular rack. That was essentially the object of my development in 59 and 60. Now, getting back to the ring modulator, I discovered this ring modulator, and it was recognized by people who were interested that this was really a breakthrough in ring modulator technology. And so Usachevsky of Columbia and Princeton, he ordered the first ring modulators from me. And he's still working with those ring modulators of 1962, 63 vintage. And now then he told me that he had worked on a very interesting instrument which he called the Klangumwandler, which was developed by Siemens and which was used by Berg and Heck in Darmstadt, Germany. And he, as a matter of fact, had gone to Germany to work with this Klangumwandler, which was a $20,000 instrument. He described me exactly what it did, and from what he described to me, oh yes, then I also obtained recordings of the Klangumwandler, and I found out that it was a frequency shifter. So I gave it a more sober name and called it a frequency shifter. And if you will, I reinvented the Klangumwandler and built one for Columbia Princeton. Was commissioned to build one in I think it was 1963. Yes, and it was a very sophisticated device on which I used all kinds of techniques in order to achieve a very, very clean performance. I used a combination of the single sideband technique, which you achieve with heterodyning and single sideband filters, the technique that you use with multipliers, four-quadrant multiplication, and by the combination of the two techniques, I was able to get a single sideband suppression of 80 dB, which was unheard of at that time. So I built that monstrosity of a Klangumwandler frequency shifter, which he still likes to work with. Of course, I modernized it since it was built the first time.
Leader.
Yeah, we can just go back.
Okay.
So it used very sophisticated approaches to get a signal-to-noise ratio of 80 dB. It's not signal-to-noise ratio. I'm now
suppression.
A suppression of the unwanted sideband of 80 dB. But I had to become more practical by generating or building a second generation of frequency shifters that could be produced. But at that time, the four-quadrant multipliers did not exist yet, which came into being in the late 60s. This was still in the early 60s and mid-60s. So I still used the diodes, which I used successfully for the ring modulators, on which I had discovered the square law function of operation. And I used these diode bridges as quadrature or four-quadrant multipliers. And I developed a frequency shifter with this diode bridge technique.
Was the diode bridge ring modulator then? That's your development?
Well, it's in a certain way, it's not a basic development. It was just an improvement, discovering this region which was so undistorted and giving the ring modulator such a good quality, and that also could be used for frequency shifters. Mm-hmm. So a number of frequency shifters were built with that technology until a new technology, integrated circuit technology, came into being, which then facilitated the building of the new generation of frequency shifters, one of which is the model 1630. So that's about where we are as far as frequency shifters and ring modulators are concerned. Now, my vocoder for which I started the calculations in August 1977, didn't come out of the middle of nowhere. During the course of the years, I mulled over quite a number of vocoder concepts, only always feeling that they were too bulky, too much circuitry, and that I had to wait for the technology to get to the point that they would be practical to build. A friend of mine, in the middle of last year, 77, or I would almost say earlier part of 77, said, well, I feel that the time it has come for vocoders, so what do you think if you build a vocoder? So I became more serious. I was really encouraged. Mm-hmm. And of course, I also had heard that something would come into being or go on with the vocoder. So that was then when I started seriously with the calculation of the active filters, with the design notes now taking on shape. Mm-hmm. And when I decided finally in October to build the first prototype, I already through the years I had toyed around with the concept of a vocoder that is a direct performance instrument rather than a device for telecommunication and bandwidth reduction. So at quite an early point in the game, I thought of a vocoder that would not analyze and remake all the channels, but only the channels that are important. Musically important, yes. Transmit another portion of the information that is beyond the range of recognition, pitch recognition, like the S sound region. Now, it was an early observation of mine that, and it must be written up too, that above, just like below a certain pitch, you don't identify pitches. The same is true also above a certain frequency. And I found 6,000 cycles to be the typical frequency above which you don't identify pitches anymore. And that must have been also an observation of Lawrence Hammond, who had his tone wheels only go up to 6,000 cycles, mm-hmm. and who could do quite some cheating of the ear without anybody knowing mm-hmm. that cheating was done. Now, I used 5,000 hertz as the magic number above which I then bypass from input to output the real world frequencies, the real sounds, without the listener recognizing that this is now the direct frequency. However, it doesn't always work. Got feedback from one customer and said there's a tremendous voice feed-through. How can that be eliminated? And I said, well, put the switch, which is on the direct bypass, put it down to switch bypass, and you will not have a voice feed-through. And he was tremendously satisfied. So what turns out to be advantage in some cases for some listeners.
It almost has to be one of a kind for musicians.
Yeah.
Everybody wants something slightly different.
Oh, yes.
In their instrument.
Yeah.
I suppose that's one of the reasons the modular synthesizer and the concept of voltage control is so powerful.
Yeah, right. And of course, now I think we have enough possibilities in this vocoder, enough variables that every user is satisfied. And then, of course, with the scrambling possibilities, I'm now talking about something that, of course, EMS does too. On the $20,000 vocoder that we can do on the $5,000 instrument, as far as Bode is concerned. Yeah, well, this is, I think this essentially winds it up in a nutshell.
All right.
And so maybe we can stop the tape at this point.
All right, just a moment.
Yeah, it's the little square